Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this talk. In the next 15 minutes, I want to give you an overview of Trello. And there's a lot we can talk about in Trello, but I'm going to try to keep it simple and give you a taste of all the important things you need to know, and also giving you some resources to continue exploring. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Brittany Joyner. I don't have slides, but I'm just going to take you straight to my LinkedIn. My name is Brittany Joyner, and I like to build things. I started using Trello about 10 years ago, and I've built all sorts of systems for productivity for myself and personal productivity, and coached others with that as well. And I've also helped a lot of companies scale their workflows with Trello. And currently I am working as head of developer relations at Pixibricks, which is a low-code browser automation tool. So yeah, basically I love to build things and automate things and just make workflows work so I can actually spend time doing the things that I want to do, and getting done my work rather than spending time organizing myself. So let's go ahead and dive into Trello and what is Trello. So I have a couple ways that I like to explain Trello. First of all, I like to explain it as a digital whiteboard with sticky notes. So let's go ahead and just create a new board here. You'll sign up for a Trello account, and it's exactly what you would imagine, right? It's where you sign up and, connect with Atlassian, and then you just click this create board and you'll create, click this create button and you'll create a board. Sometimes called this test board. And then you can select a workspace. You can see I have a bunch of different ones. And this is your digital whiteboard. So it's kind of like a blank canvas here. And I like to think of, if I have a digital, if I have an in-person whiteboard, what I'm probably doing is organizing content on it, and I might have different sort of lists or columns in there. And so let's say I'm tracking a project, for instance. I might have to do, doing, and done, just to stick with the standard Kanban example. And then I might have sticky notes inside those things. And so that's what we call cards. And so this could be, write a blog post. It could be test new feature, whatever these items are. And these are your sticky notes. But they're supercharged sticky notes. And so let me show you what I mean by that. If you open up a card, you can see all sorts of different things that you can do in here. For instance, you can add members to the card and assign people to it. You can add labels to categorize these cards. Some people even use them for styling them. You can add checklists. So these could be subtasks. And even in these checklist items, you can assign people and assign due dates. You can convert those into cards later. You can even turn these into linked cards. So let's say, this is related to this card. I could have a checklist item that is that feature. You can also add dates. So you can add start dates and due dates. So it's a great way to plot these on a calendar and see when tasks are due, and also get reminders and notifications about it. You can add attachments. So if you have files that are relating to something you're working on, for instance, let's say, you're working on writing a blog post, and maybe I've got some Google Docs, maybe I've got some images and assets for that. You can have them all right here inside the card. You can also add a location to a card, which isn't useful for everyone, but for anyone who's trying to organize location information, such as if you have like a delivery service, or you're working with physical sites for your job, or if you're planning a trip, it can be really useful to include a specific location and then be able to plot those views on a map. You can add a cover for styling your card. And then lastly, you can even add custom fields. And this is a premium feature of Trello. It's part of the standard plan, which I can talk about pricing in a minute. But custom fields are basically, if you're like anything that I just mentioned here, that you're like, it doesn't have that, well, you can make your own field with that. And you could make it a checkbox, you can make it a date, drop down number, or text field, whatever you want there. And so those are kind of the core sort of things you can do there. There's also a card description, which has a rich text editor where you can inject different types of content and paste whatever you need in here. And then you have card comments where, once again, you can tag people and create conversations relating to this specific task. So these are sort of the core components of Trello. You've got the board, the list, and the supercharged sticky notes. And what's really special about all of this is that you can kind of have this zoomed out view here, right? So I can look and say, okay, this is Trello from my mile high sort of view. This is everything I need to do. But then I can also zoom into exactly what I need. And you can zoom into what you need in a couple of different ways. So first of all, you can use board filters. So I can say only show cards that are assigned to me. And that will clean up the board and only show cards that are assigned to me. You can say, show me ones that are due in the next day, or ones that are due in the next week. So you can keep every task that comes to mind on here and filter to only show what's due this week, so you are able to zoom out or zoom into what you're working on this week. You can even use ones for certain labels. So let's say you have a lot of cards on here, and you just want to see what's due today and specifically what's due with content today. Well, you can say, on my card, or you can say, if you care about who's assigned to it, you can say cards assigned to me. You can say due in the next day, and then has, one of these two labels, and then boom, you know exactly what you need to work on. You don't have to give any additional thought there. So that's pretty handy. Another thing you can do is have different board views, right? So there's table view, which if you're a big fan of Excel, you might prefer this because you can plot all of this in a calendar, and then you can show, you can plot all of this in a table view, which is very similar to Excel. So for people who are like, I miss like my spreadsheets, you can still kind of get that here. But you can also view cards in calendar or timeline views. And calendar view is exactly what it sounds like. Plots your cards on a calendar, and you can be like, I need a card right here. And you call it whatever, it creates it right here, automatically gives it that due date. And let's say you're like, actually, I need it to last this long. Well, you can drag it and update, and it includes the start and end date there. Timeline view is similar, except it lets you plot also by another dimension. So for instance, you can see the date, but you can also see what list it's in, or for instance, you could see it by member. So it's a good way for like capacity planning if you want to see what's Brittany working on this week, what's, my team doing, does anybody have any extra space? Like, if Brittany's got 10 cards and Joe has, 3, maybe we can kind of redistribute that workload a little bit. And then there's dashboard view, which lets you see statistics about your cards, and you can create some of your own sort of little charts with this. It's not the most robust reporting tool, but it gives you some quick information if you need it. And then lastly, I mentioned map. I don't have any cards plotted on here at the moment, but I would be able to see little pins by these different locations, which again is helpful if you're planning a trip or you have a specific location information that's relevant. And just to give you an overview of Trello pricing, in case you're wondering, is all of this free? I have a video that I can send you if you go to my YouTube channel that explains Trello pricing. But basically the gist is that in the free plan, you're limited to 10 boards per workspace, but you can have as many workspaces as you want. If you want custom fields and advanced checklists, which advanced checklists are the ones where you can assign specific items. So for instance, when I showed you a checklist item and you add a member and a due date, that's an advanced checklist. And also custom fields. So you just need to pay $5 a month per user for that. And then if you want those views that I just showed you, that's when you're going to need premium. So that's kind of how you can work your way around and figure out exactly what you need with that. So that's kind of the core components of Trello. Now I want to tell you about the next level of up-leveling your Trello journey with automation. So Trello's pretty cool, pretty simple, pretty basic. Anybody can figure this out. A basic like drag and drop, add labels, whatever, you're good to go. But what really makes Trello special is its powerful suite of automation, which you can access by clicking the lightning bolt here, and you can see there's just a whole different suite of rules. And so the difference between all of these different types of sections is basically how you want to trigger automation. And what I mean by that is if you're trying to automate something, the best way to do it is to think of it in a if X happens, then Y happens, or when X happens, then Y happens. And whatever your X is, if it's like when a label is added to a card, that is your trigger, and that means you're going to want a rule. Like when it's based on some sort of event, if it's like when a card is added to a board, that means you're going to want to be in rules. If your when statement relates to when it is Monday or when a new month begins, if it relates to a date or a day, that's where you're going to want scheduled automation. If your when statement is 3 days, like when a card is due, or if it's like 3 days after a card is due, if it sounds something like that, or it relates to due dates, then that's probably going to be under the due date automation. Or if you're like, you want to manually trigger something, that's where we have card and board buttons, respectively. Card ones apply to cards, board ones apply to typically list or different cards throughout the board. And so when you're trying to set up automation, you need to think about that trigger because that is going to determine which section you want to build it in. So let's say we just want to build a basic rule for when someone is added, or when a card is added to a board, we want to add ourselves. So again, that when statement is when a card is added to a board, so it's a specific event. It doesn't relate to a date. It's not like a button I want to click, and it doesn't relate to due dates. So that means we're going to be in rules. You're going to go up here and click Create Automation, and then you would say Add Trigger, and this is where you're going to see the access to all the different events that you have access to. And this section for triggers is going to change a little bit based on the different section that you're in, but rules have the most robust amount. And I actually go in a lot of detail about this in my book, which I will include a link for you all to that, but this is my book on Trello, and part 2 is literally deep diving in automation, and this is where I give all sorts of different examples, talk through exactly how you would use these different types of triggers and what you can do with them and useful automations with them. And so basically, right here is the most basic one, right? When a card is added to the board, and you can add the filter button to be more specific. So you can say when a card is added, you know, with a label, or when it is added in a specific list, or, you know, whatever you want to do, you can get as specific as you want with it. When you want the rule, click that blue plus button, and then you're now selecting your action. And this is the Y part, right? So if we said when X happens, then do Y, this is where we now select our Y. And once again, you've got a variety of things you can choose from moving the card around to places, to creating cards, to adding things to the cards, to setting due dates, to creating checklists, to adding or removing members, to, you know, posting comments, renaming the name of the card, updating custom fields, even resorting a list, and cascading to go find another card and do specific actions to each of those. You can even connect with any of these other tools that you're interested in. For us, we just want to join the cards. So we're going to go to members, and you can see this very first action is what we want. And just click the button, and boom. Now, when a card is added to the board, we will join the card. Go ahead and click save, and you should see a little confetti spray across your screen. And let's go ahead and give it a try here. You can see the card was created. I was immediately added to the card. And so this is just one example, probably one of the most basic examples of automation, but I just wanted to show that to kind of help you see how those building blocks kind of work together. And again, I go into way more detail about automation in my book. That talks could be done just about automation and what you can do with that there, because it's extremely powerful and there's a lot you can do with it. The last thing I want to talk about is power-ups, and this is another way to sort of supercharge your boards. So you can access them by clicking this little like rocket icon here and click Add Power-Ups, and it's going to take you to the Power-Up directory. And this is where you can just kind of explore all of the different things that exist. So if you're looking for something in specific, for instance, if you're trying to integrate with Google Calendar, you can search and see what comes up for that. If you are interested in a specific category, you don't know quite what you want, but you know that you work in HR, for instance, you might see this HR and operations and click that and explore what's going on in here. And when you see something here, like for instance, here's maybe you use Pipedrive, you can click that. You can read more about exactly what happens with this. And so, you know, you can see, oh, this integrates with Pipedrive, it does this and that. There's usually some screenshots here. Some are kind of, you know, more descriptive than others, but there's usually different ways you can interact with them and learn more about them. So you can see, again, yeah, here's one that has a little bit more screenshots. So yeah, and they usually talk about like pricing and have different information here as well. When you're ready to add it, you can click add and it will add it to the board, make you confirm that, and you may have to create an account for that. There's no limit to how many power-ups you can have on your board, and some of them are free, some of them charge. It just kind of depends on the power-up. If you look at the ones made by Trello, those are free, and so you can look through some interesting ones here. It's a good place to get started. Everyone always asks, what is the best power-up? There's not a single best power-up because it depends on what you're trying to do with Trello. It would be like, you know, if someone came to me and said, Brittany, tell me what is the best kind of shoe. I can't tell you the best kind of shoe because there's great shoes for if you're trying to play basketball. There's great shoes for if you're trying to look nice with a dress, but I would have to recommend different shoes based on that, right? Those basketball shoes are fantastic shoes, but they're probably not going to work with the dress. The high heels you might wear with the dress, they're not going to work when you're trying to play basketball. So one thing that I do say is that it's worth asking in the Atlassian community. So if you're not already engaged, if you go to the Atlassian community, community.atlassian.com, there's a whole section on Trello, and it's a great place to say, what power-ups do you recommend for? I'm trying to do this or that. Explain your use case, and usually folks like me will hop on there and help answer questions and show you stuff. But some good general use power-ups that are kind of useful across the board. Bulk actions is probably my favorite. This one lets you select multiple cards and perform actions on them, which is great if you need to quickly unassign people or reassign people to a bunch of cards, or change due dates, or if you need to, archive a bunch of cards, whatever you need to do. It's exactly what it sounds like. Bulk actions is a really good one. But then, other good ones, if you've heard of amazing fields. If you liked custom fields, but you were like, I wish I could make it a little bit more custom, then you probably want amazing fields. It gives you lots of options for styling your cards. Just about every use case could probably use some more fields on the board to like specify information about your cards and help you see what you want with that and give you all the styling options you could possibly imagine. They also have a lot of features that are even outside of just fields related. With doing board backups and things like that. Speaking of board backups, Rewind backups for Trello. That's another great one if you're worried about losing data in there. Trello is really great with saving data. I've never really experienced issues with losing data in Trello, but just in case you're worried about someone messing up your board, this is a good power-up to have. And then there's lots of great ones for specific use cases too, right? So if you're trying to build a CRM in Trello, Crumble is a great tool for that. If you're managing leads and pipeline deals and various things like that. If you're trying to get information into your board from another place, I recommend Forms by Blue Cat, because you can create a form at a URL, and when people fill that form out, it will create a card in your Trello board. So in the interest of time, I'm going to pause there, but if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I also have a newsletter at trello.substack.com. Please join my newsletter. I send content every week all about Trello and fun tips and use cases and power-ups. And you can also check out my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search Brittany Joyner. This is my channel. I make lots of productivity and automation content, including Trello. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.